Welcome back. Chapter 22. Gertrude Payne stood on the cliffside of the Payne estate. The moon reflected off the churning waters of the Atlantic. She let her gray hair loose and closed her eyes. The wind felt good on her face. The crashing waves soothed her. She could still hear Stefano approaching, but she kept her eyes closed for another 10 seconds. When she opened them, she said, "You didn't get him. Ross Sumner failed us. And that guard, the one who told you about the sister-in-law's visit, he failed too." She turned away from the ocean. Stefano was a beefy man with jet black hair cut into Prince Valiant bangs, making him resemble an aging rocker who was trying a little too hard to hang on to his youth. Stefano's suit was custom made but still fit his square frame like a cardboard box. "I don't understand," Gertrude said. "How could he have escaped?" "Does it matter?" "Perhaps not. It's not as though he's a threat." She smiled. "What? You think he is?" She knew the odds of David Burrow causing any lasting damage was minuscule, but you don't reach what her husband used to nauseatingly call the Payne pinnacle without adding the other P, paranoia. But she also knew the way the world worked. You simply never know. You believe you are safe. You are certain that you consider everything, every angle, thought about every possibility, but you didn't. Not ever. The world doesn't work that way. No one gets it right all the time. "Miss Payne, we need to be prepared, Stefano." Chapter 23. I hurry walk the streets of Manhattan. I don't want to be conspicuous by running, but I also want to put distance between myself and that apartment on 12th Street. I head north. I pass the 14th Street subway station and then the 23rd Street one, resisting the urge to head down because if there is some kind of manhunt or dragnet, they'll probably cover all nearby subway stations. Or not. The truth is, I have no idea. I have a destination, of course. Revere, Massachusetts, my hometown. The man who blackmailed Hilda Winslow, the one with the forelock, that's where he lived. I know him. I assume the FBI will have someone watching my father's house, but then again, the police can't be everywhere all at once. We get used to that viewpoint from television and movies, where every bad guy is quickly brought to justice, by unlimited surveillance and a fingerprint or a DNA sample. I also don't know what Hild may have told the cops. She seemed to genuinely sympathize with my flight, and she helped me escape. But it's hard to say for certain. It could have been an act. It could have been that she feared what would happen if the police broke in and I was near her. I don't know. But I really don't have a choice. I have to risk going to Revere. When I arrive in Times Square half an hour later, I realized how in over my head I am. I had thought about crowded places like these, the people, the noise, the bright lights, the big screens, the neon signs, but I am ill prepared for what I'm experiencing right now. I stop. There is too much stimulation. The swirl and onslaught of hums and hues, of smells, of faces, of life. It all sends me reeling. I'm like a man who has spent 5 years in a dark room and now someone is shining a flashlight into my eyes. My head spins to the point where I have to lean against a wall or fall down. The adrenaline that had kept me going isn't so much ebbed away as turning into smoke and vanishing into the night air. Exhaustion overtakes me. It's late. The trains and buses to the Boston area are done for the night. I need to be smart about this. I know what I need to do when I'm back in Revere, and I will need full command of my faculties to pull it off. In short, I need to sleep. There are a lot of subway stops near here, too many for the cops to cover, but in the end, I choose to walk. The shaved head should still throw them. Hild only saw me with a ditched baseball cap, but I also wear a surgical mask. Not many people are wearing them anymore, so I worry I may stick out with it. But it's also a great disguise. Should I keep it on? Hard call. So is deciding where to go to sleep. I think about walking north to Central Park. There are plenty of places to hide and make shelter. But again, would that be a place the police might cover? I check my burner phone. Only Rachel, who brought it for me, knows the number. I wait for her to contact me, but she hasn't yet. I'm not sure what that means, if anything. She probably still feels watched. I make a plan. I keep the mask on and I head up to Central Park. I take the path into Lush Ramble, the park's natural preserve near 79th Street. The trees are thicker up here. I find a spot as deep and secluded as I can. I lay out branches everywhere near me and hope like hell that if someone approaches me, I'll be able to hear and react. I lay down and listen to the babbling stream mixed in with the city sounds. Then I close my eyes and fall into a mercifully dreamless sleep. At rush hour, when I know Penn Station will be packed, I board an Amtrak to Boston. I have the cleanly shaven head. I wear a mask. Sometimes during the ride, it hits me that I've now been free for 24 hours. I am on edge the whole time, but when I go to the bathroom and look at myself in the mirror, I realize that there is nearly zero chance anyone will recognize me. I don't know how risky taking this train is, but really, what choice do I have? When I'm an hour outside of Boston, my burner phone finally rings. I don't recognize the incoming number. I hit the answer button, but I don't say anything. I hold the phone to my ear and wait. Alpaca, Rachel says. Relief washes over me. We came up with 7 code words to start every conversation. If she doesn't open with the code word, it means that it is not safe and someone is forcing her to make the call or listening in. If she reuses a password, if on the next call she says alpaca, I'll again know someone somehow is listening in and trying to fool me. All okay? I ask. I don't have a return password or code. I didn't see a need. There is a fine line between careful and ridiculous, as well as could expect. The cops question you? The FBI, yes. They figured out where I was heading? I say. The FBI? Yes, they almost caught me at Hills. I didn't say anything, I swear. I know. So how? I'm not sure. But you got away. For now. Were you able to question her? She mean Hills, of course. I tell her yes and fill her in on some of what I've learned. I tell her that Hill admitted lying on the stand, but I leave out the gambling debt and the connections to Revere. If somehow someone is listening in, man, all of this can make you so damn paranoid. It's better not to give them the slightest hint of my destination. I'm getting as much cash together as I can. I'm going to figure a way to lose any tell that the FBI has on me, just like we talked about. How long would that take? Ooh, aren't they listening in? They are listening in. So now she's accomplished too. Okay. How long would that take? An hour, maybe 2. Pin drop me your location when you get where you're going. I'll come to get you. I'll come to you. Thanks. There's one other thing, Rachel says when I finish. I wait. Cheryl visited me last night. I can feel the tightness in my chest. How did that go? I showed her the photo. She thinks we are both delusional. Hard to argue. She also said that my personal issues could be interfering with my judgment. Those being, I'm going to forward you some links, David. Read them. It's easier than trying to explain. Okay. Rachel texts me links to 3 different articles on her proposed me 2 article and the subsequent suicide of a young woman named Catherine Tullo. I settle back and read all three. I try to study the situation objectively, as though it does not involve a person I adore as much as Rachel. But it's hard to be objective for a lot of reasons. I have questions for Rachel, but they can keep. I lay back and close my eyes until I hear the call for North Station in Boston. I look out the window as we pull up to the platform, fearing a huge police presence. There are scattered cops, which is normal, I guess, but they don't look particularly worried. That doesn't mean much, but it's better than seeing 100 with guns drawn. I head out of the station and into my home city. I can't help but smile. I head down Causeway Street and hit the Boston Dunkin' on the corner of Lancaster Street. I grab half a dozen donuts, 2 French crullers, 2 chocolate glaze, 1 toasted coconut, 1 old-fashioned, and a large cup of unflavored black coffee because I hate flavored coffee, especially from Dunkin'. I head down Lancaster Avenue with the Dunkin' bag in my hand. I'm still wearing the surgical mask, but eventually I will risk that to eat the French cruller. My mouth is watering at the thought. 15 minutes later, I'm at the Bolden Street subway and on the Blue Line headed toward Revere Beach. I try to flash back to past times when I made this journey in my youth. We had a group of guys back then, all of us in the same class at Revere High. I was closest to Adam, but we had TJ, Billy, and the man I was on my way to visit, Eddie Grinton. Did they mention him? Eddie's family owned a pharmacy at Centennial Avenue and North Shore Road, a stone's throw from Revere Beach Station. His grandfather started the place. Everyone I know got their prescription filled there. And way back when, first Eddie's grandfather and then his father ran numbers and books for the Fisher crime family. The small parking lot behind the pharmacy was completely isolated from the street. Back in the day, it was our main hangout. We drank beers and smoked weed. Of course, that was a long time ago. The crew was mostly gone now. TJ was a physician in Newton. Billy opened a bar in Miami. But Eddie, who had wanted out of this town more than any of us, who hated his grandfather's life and his father's life, and the 10 years he'd been forced to work in a pharmacy too, was still here. He ended up going to pharmacology school, just like his old man wanted. After he graduated, he worked that high counter until the old man, like the grandfather before him, kneeled over and died of a heart attack. Now Eddie ran the place and waited his turn to keel over. When I get off at Revere Beach Station, I grow worried again, not just because of the possible police presence, but because this is my old neighborhood, and if any place will see through my disguise, it's here. I am within 1,000 feet of my childhood home, the Mackenzie home, Sal's Pizzeria, Grilton Pharmacy, all of it. Grilton Pharmacy looks slightly worse for wear, but it had been slowly deteriorating for as long as I can remember. The watered-down brick was barely red anymore. The neon sign above the store was rusting on the edges. When it was turned on, the letter spasm elimination. I keep my head lower and move down the alleyway toward our old hangout in the back. There was 1 parking space. I remember Eddie's dad always kept his Cadillac back there. It meant something to Eddie's dad, that car, and he kept it perfectly waxed at all times. Now Eddie kept his Cadillac ATS in the same spot. Things changed, and yet everything stays the same. I get deep when I'm tired. I huddle behind the garbage dumpsters. The coffee is still hot. That's Dunkin' for you. I inhale a French cruller and slow down midway through the coconut. Prison has its share of abuses, but I guess I'd overlook the inherent cruelty brought upon my taste buds. I'm giddy from the flavor or the sugar high, or maybe it's experiencing freedom. It is so easy to shut down in prison, to make yourself numb, to not let yourself feel or experience anything remotely connected to pleasure. It helps, really. It keeps me alive. But now I've been forced out of that protective shell. Now that I've let myself think about Matthew and the possibilities of redemption, and all the feels are rushing in. I checked the time. No one uses this back interest. I know this from the decades we gather here. It won't be much longer, I think. And sure enough, the back door opens and Eddie steps out, an unlit cigarette dangling from his lip. He has the lighter in his hand, and the moment the glass door closes behind him, he hits the flame and puts it up to the end of the cigarette, his eyes shut on the deep inhale. Eddie looks older. He's skinny and stooped with a pouch. His once coarse hair is fading now, leaving him somewhere between receding and bald. He has a pencil-thin mustache and sunken eyes. I don't exactly know how to handle this, so I step into view. Hey, Eddie. He goes slack-jawed when he sees me. The dangling cigarette falls from his lips, but Eddie grabs it mid-air. That makes me smile. Eddie had the fastest hands. He was the best ping pong player, the group pool shark, a whiz at video games, or pinball, or bowling, or mini golf. Anything involving hand-eye coordination and a little else. Holy shit, Eddie says. Do I have to ask you not to scream? Fuck no, you kidding me? He hurries over to me. I'm so happy to see you, man. Isn't he the man that set him up? He hugs me, that new old sensation, and I stiffen, afraid that if I give into this, I'll collapse and never get back up. Still, the hug is welcome. Even the stench of cigarette is welcome. Me too, Eddie. I saw in the news about your escape. He points to the top of my head. You lose your hair too? No, I'm in disguise. Clever, Eddie says. Can we get one thing out of the way? Sure. You didn't kill Matthew, did you? I did not. Knew it. You've got a plan? Forget it. The less I know, the better. You need cash? Yes. Okay, business is in the crapper, but I've got some money in a safe. Whatever's there, it's yours. I try not to well up. Thanks, Eddie. That's why you're here? No. All right, then, well, talk to me. You still running books? Nah, that's why business is so bad. We used to do it all in the old days. I mean, my grandfather ran numbers. My dad, he took everyone's bet. The cops called them both crooks. No offense to your old man. None taken. How is he, by the way? You probably know more than I do, Eddie. Yeah, I guess. Where was I? The cops called your dad and grandfather crooks. Right. But you know who finally put us out of business? The government. Used to be numbers were illegal. Then the government called it a lottery and give shittier odds than we ever did. And now, bam, it's legit. Gambling was illegal too. And then some online asshole paid off a bunch of politicians. And now, boom, you click online and your bets are in. Marijuana too. Not that my old man ever sold that. But you were booking 5 years ago. That's around when it all started to tank. Why? Do you remember a name called Ellen Winslow? He frowned. She wasn't one of mine. Reggie on Shirley Avenue took her bets. But you know the name? She was indeed, yeah, but I can't imagine why you care. Eddie still wears the white pharmacy smock like he's a doctor or a cosmetic salesman at Fillings. So she'd have owned the Fisher brothers? Eddie doesn't love where this conversation is headed. Yeah, I guess. Davy, why are you asking me all of this? I need to talk to Kyle. Silence. Kyle as in skunk? Kyle? They still call him that? He prefers it. That had been his nickname when we were kids. I don't remember when Kyle moved to town, first grade, maybe second. He had a white forelock even then. Okay, so it wasn't Eddie, it's Kyle. Okay. With the white streak against the black hair and kids being kids, he immediately got the obvious nickname Skunk. Some kids would have hated that. Young Kyle seemed to revel in it. Let me get this straight, Eddie says. You want to talk to Skunk Kyle about an old debt? Yes. Eddie whistled. You remember him, right? Yes. Remember when he pushed Lisa Milestone off that roof when we were 9? I do. And Mrs. Bailey's cat, the one that kept disappearing when we were like 12? Yes. And the pollen girl, what was her name again? Marianne? I remember, I say. Skunk hasn't gotten better, Davy. I know. I assume he still works for the Fishers. Eddie gives his face a vigorous rub with his right hand. You going to tell me what this is about, right? I see no reason not to. I think the Fishers kidnapped my son and set me up for murder. I give him the abridged version. Eddie doesn't tell me I'm crazy, but he thinks it. I show him the amusement park photo. He looks at it quickly, but his eyes stay mostly on me. He drops his cigarette butt to the cracked pavement and lights another one. He doesn't interrupt. When I finish, Eddie says, okay, I'm not going to try to talk you out of this. You're a big boy. I appreciate that. Can you set it up? I can make a call. Thank you. You know the old man retired, right? Nikki Fisher retired? I say. Yep, retired. Moved someplace warm. I hear Nicky golfs every day now. Spent his life murdering, robbing, extorting, palandering, maiming. But now he's in his 80s enjoying golf and spa massages and dinners out in Florida. Karma, right? So who's the boss now? His son NJ runs the show. Do you think NJ would talk to me? I can only ask. But if it's what you think, it's not like they're going to confess. I'm not interested in getting anyone in trouble. Yeah, but it's not just that. If they really wanted to set you up for killing your own kid, and I won't go into the million reasons why that makes no sense, why wouldn't they just call the cops on you now? The Fishers calling the cops? It wouldn't be a good look, I admit. Of course, they might just kill you. That's more their style than this Count of Monte Cristo tale you're coming up with. I don't really have a choice, Eddie. This is my only lead. Eddie nods. Okay, let me make the call. And that's the end of chapter 23. Okay, so I still want to know what the Payne family got to do with it. And then the Payne family hired somebody to take care of David. For what reason? And they hired Ross, and then Ross turned around and tried to hire Ted. But why? Are they going through all of this? And now he's in his hometown looking for someone, I guess the person who arranged it all, which is a gangster. And he's about to go approach him. All right, David, you better be careful. I guess we're going to have to see how it all turns out in the next chapter. So I'm going to see y'all in the next chapter. Bye.